On one of the crime-sleuthing websites, there is a long list of all of the evidence from the Jonbenet Ramsey case that has been compiled by the FBI over the years. And during the early part of the investigation, the FBI interviewed people in and around the Ramseys' lakeside vacation home in Michigan, far away from the murder scene at their winter home in Colorado. Interestingly, there were a number of people in Michigan who recalled a man loitering about at a roadside gas station near the Ramseys' property many months earlier. The man was inquiring about Mr. Ramsey, they said, but since the Ramseys had already left their lakeside house for the season, this man had missed out on contacting Mr. Ramsey. People described the man as being in his late 30s and of medium build, with dark hair and a very unusual nose, and possibly a foreign accent. Well, if you look at the side profile of Paul Peters, he does have a big nose, like the toucan parrot on the Fruit Loops box, and he is of medium build, and being Australian, he would likely have a foreign accent. And in the 1990s, he might have passed for being in his late 30s with dark hair. And one more thing that one of the Michigan witnesses vaguely recalled is that the mystery man asked for directions to a nearby airport. That airport would have to have been a small airport, being that it was in a vacation village. So it makes one wonder if the man might have flown into the Michigan vacation town in his own plane. But unfortunately, those FBI interviews in Michigan were so many years ago that at least one of the witnesses has since died. But there are also rumors on the internet that an artist's composite sketch of the mystery man may still exist somewhere in the old FBI files. And here is one more interesting correlation between the two cases. Though I'm sure it probably has nothing to do with anything, it is interesting all the same. The Ramseys' maid was named Linda Hoffman Pugh, and her two daughters, who would sometimes help out with spring cleaning at the Ramsey mansion, carried the surname of Hoffman as well. Now I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but it turns out that Paul Peters' American wife's maiden name was also Hoffman, but spelled with only one N at the end instead of two N's. So it is not likely that they are related at all, but it does make one wonder. Now I'm going to reflect upon any possible correlation between the personalities of Paul Peters and the unknown perpetrator of the Jonbenet Ramsey murder. From reading the Jonbenet Ramsey note, we can tell that the murderer is an awful and repulsive creature and a terrorist and a bully. But the one line that reveals a little more insight into his personality is the line where he says, quote, "Don't try to grow a brain, John. You're not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult." While most people would consider the possibility that a rich man can achieve success through honesty and hard work, and that John Ramsey's time-saving software product is a win-win purchase for his customers and society, the ransom note author seems to generalize that all rich people are mafia types, quote, "fat cats," who gain their wealth through bringing others down. This stereotype that the perpetrator projects onto all rich people leads me to suspect that the perpetrator is himself a fat cat mafia type, in his own mind at least, who cannot conceive of the possibility of anyone achieving success through honest and mutually profitable means. An arrogant individual who sees himself as better than everyone else and as deserving to be one of the fat cats, and who is going to take what he feels he deserves no matter what he has to do and who is harmed. Or alternatively, the perpetrator sounds like a left-leaning Occupy Wall Street type who hates all rich people and, like the mafia gangsters, cannot conceive of an honest and nice rich person. And now I will highlight Mosman collar bomber Paul Peters' personality trait of competitiveness. When Paul Peters worked in Hong Kong, he was riding his horse in a polo match, and he was losing real bad to a competitor on the other team. And he got infuriated, and he rode his horse really fast into the side of his opponent's horse, and injured his opponent's horse so badly that it had to be euthanized because of the injuries. Well, that shows a competitive person. And if that's not bad enough, get this. Paul Peters went on to get further vengeance against his polo opponent in the most extreme way. His opponent had donated the use of a vacation ski chalet in Canada to a charity auction, so that whoever submitted the highest bid to the charity would win the use of the timeshare for 1 week of skiing. So what Paul Peters did was he outbid everyone else at the charity auction in order to win the use of the ski lodge timeshare for a week. And when the time came to go to Canada, Paul Peters flew all the way from Hong Kong to Canada, where he then smashed up the timeshare interior all to pieces, thus causing $100,000 in damage to his enemy's property. Now, this vandalism counts as the second time that we know of where Paul Peters traveled halfway around the world to commit a crime. Hong Kong to Canada to vandalize the timeshare, and from the United States to Australia to put the collar bomb onto the teenage girl. Well, that is one destructive and sick individual. And it makes me wonder if he used a black aluminum baseball bat to vandalize the timeshare as well. And it also makes me wonder if Paul Peters might be prone to and capable of going as far as to harm someone else's child out of envy and jealousy against the parents, rather than just the monetary gain, as officials claimed was his motive in the Pulver extortion case. And it also makes me wonder if Paul Peters' wife in Kentucky had ever entered any of his 3 daughters into any children's competitive pageants. And I do wonder if the material evidence hasn't been compromised too much in storage over the past 20 years. If the FBI might be able to do more touch DNA tests upon the black baseball bat and the James Clavell novel that appeared in the Ramsey mansion.